Well, good morning, folks. Welcome back to Three's In. Bobo here. So, the stories I've collected over the years, I can say probably range from urban legends all through to the God's honest truth. Often a mix, I suspect. But at any rate, this next story I'm going to share with you, I observed a lot of what I'm going to tell you about, but I think there is a little urban legend mixed in there somewhere. You can sort it out. I'll just share with you what I heard. It's about an ops officer we had at Randolph, call sign Polecat. Really a great guy. He was our ops officer when I showed up on the scene in 82, 83, somewhere in that area there. And then I followed him up to Stanaval in 85. At any rate, Polecat had been a thud driver, and he was a fighter pilot's fighter pilot. He carried himself like that. You always knew where you stood with him. Another characteristic of Polecat's was he always had a cigar in his mouth, and never without one. Now, I don't smoke, so I'm going to have to use my pen, but you'll get the idea here. So he'd have a cigar in his mouth walking around. I don't know if I ever saw it lit or not. It doesn't matter. At any rate, one of the first stories I heard about Polecat was he was given a check ride one day to a student. And when we gave check rides, we conducted ourselves as students, and the students conducted themselves as instructor pilots. And then we would grade them on how well they instructed. Okay, you got the idea. So they get out the airplane, and Polecat has a cigar in his mouth, walks over, checks forms out, puts his chute down, or vice versa, starts to walk around. Well, the kid's getting nervous because he sees the cigar in Polecat's mouth. He doesn't know if it's lit or not. So he comes up to Polecat and he says, sir, he says, I don't think we're supposed to be smoking around the airplane. Well, I doubt if he had it lit, but at any rate, it made the kid nervous. So Polecat looks at him, doesn't say a word, just looks at him, takes the cigar out, pushes it against the side of the airplane and mashes it, and then puts it in his pocket and continues to walk around. Now, how would you like to take a check ride following that? I myself probably would have melted if I had seen that. At any rate, I heard that one. I don't know if it's true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was. Now, one day, we were all going up, 8 of us were going up for a 4-ship ride. So we would meet in room 45, which was our briefing room, and the flight lead would give the briefing, and we go through any questions and whatnot, and we go out and fly. So Billy Horn, who was a relatively mid-level FAPE, I guess, first assignment IP, young guy, was given the briefing this particular day. So he's given this briefing, and Polecat's sitting over there up against the wall, just kind of taking everything in, listening to everything. And Billy's briefing's pretty straightforward, talking about what we're going to do and listening to B-Nos and so forth. And when he finishes, he says, does anyone have any questions? And nobody has any questions. It was a good brief. And he says, all right, with that being the case, he says, let's go down, grab our chutes, and mount up. And at that time, Polecat goes, oh, Jesus Christ. He says, you don't mount up airplanes. He says, you strap on jets. He says, you mount up sheep, for crying out loud. And he just shaking his head, walking out, shaking his head, walking out of the room. The rest of us are in stitches, and Billy Horn's sitting there going, what? What'd I do? Another thing that I'll mention about Polecat was, I had mentioned earlier, I followed him up to Stanaval. And when I got up there, we flew a lot of checkout rides together. And during those rides, we talked philosophy of grading and so forth. Really good conversations and so forth. We got down. He talked to me about the care and feeding of our director of operations, Colonel D. He said, now, Colonel D is a micromanager. Well, I knew that. And he said, he will drive you nuts sending down these notes. And he says, what he'll do, he'll ask a question and he'll forget about it. And he's counting on you to go through the question and sort it out and then come back and tell them. He says, it just takes up a lot of time and really doesn't mean too much of anything when it's all said and done. I'll give you an example. I say, what color is a T-38? Well, sir, it's white. I know it's white. Is it a cream white? Is it an off-white? It's white. Leave it alone. White. It's been white since it's been painted. Leave it alone. That kind of thing. He says, what I learned, I said, just take the notes, and he pulled open a drawer and he pulled out a stack of notes. He just tossed it in the stack. He said, you'll be fine. Now, if he brings it up, just say, sir, I just have a couple more things I need to sort out. I'll get right back. Then go ahead and take care of it. But by and large, just put them in the drawer. Because he does that to everybody, and people keep going in. They keep him busy, so he rarely thinks of what you're doing. Okay, I can do that. So when I eventually took over, I took Polecat's notes, threw them in the trash can, and started a pile of my own. And then when Rick Lanier took over from me, I passed on the briefing, threw my notes away so that Rick would have a clean drawer. That's the kind of the way it worked. Now, when Polecat retired, we had a function for him out at Eberly Park, which is a little, it's a recreational park on the other side of the base, on the other side of 1-4 left. They've now changed, I think it's 1-3 left now. Oh well. So we're all out there at Eberly Park and having a nice afternoon. They got hamburgers, hot dogs, and some beer and whatnot. The wing commander came out, the director of operations, a squadron commander, everybody's out there milling around. And it was kind of informal. And eventually, after some really nice words were said about Polecat, they invited him up to speak. He got up and he says, hey, guys, I don't have a lot to say, he says, but I will tell you, he says, 3 of the most useless things I did in the Air Force: Squadron Officer School, Air Command and Staff College, and Air War College. He says, took up a lot of my time, and he's took me away from flying. He says, just useless. And we're all standing there, we're all, going along like that, and the heavies are sitting over there shaking their heads. It kind of said what we were thinking, though. I've always felt that a captain without SOS, which is Squadron Officer School, a captain without SOS is like a fish without a bicycle. For the most part it was. At any rate, after he retired, Polecat showed up at the airlines. And again, I don't know if this is the urban legend part. Wouldn't surprise me if it's true or not, but the story goes he was in the interview, and there was this interview geek, and he's going through his resume, and he gets down to the end of it, and he looks up, and he says, now, he says, Mr. R, and Polecat looks at him. Polecat. Guy says, oh, yes, sir, Mr. Polecat. He says, notice you're a little bit older than the normal applicant we have that comes through here. He says, how do you think you're going to feel if you're flying with a young captain over there and he does something you think is kind of dangerous or not going to work out real well? He says, how do you think you're going to handle it? Polecat thinks for a minute, looks at him, he says, well, he says, I'm not going to let the little snot kill me, or something to that matter. And that was it. Polecat got hired and had a great career at the airlines. At any rate, I just wanted to take this opportunity to offer a tribute to a man we thought the world of. He taught a lot of us a lot of things about flying, about officership, about the operation, and it was an honor and a joy to have worked with him. So, Polecat, God bless you. This is Bobo, Base Gear. Stop.